I'm Dana Healy, and you're listening to Cities Speak. Welcome back to the newest episode of Cities Speak. Today we have Scott Davis, who has been a volunteer coach with the Nightcrawlers robotics team of Irondale High School for the last 6 years. Scott's not a teacher at Irondale, but has spent many years as an educator, actually 7 years as an adjunct professor for the St. Mary's University. Today, Scott is an entrepreneur. His company created an online mobile game which has players worldwide. He also helps other companies build software products, working with companies like small businesses all the way up to Fortune 500 companies. Scott, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, how did you initially become interested in robotics and how did you become the coach of the Nightcrawlers?
My daughter decided that she wanted to join the robotics team as a freshman when she was at Irondale. And as a software developer, I asked one of the volunteer coaches at the time if they needed any additional help. And they said, actually, we need a lot of help with software. And that's how I got started. So she joined the team. That was for 6 years ago now. So she has graduated away from the team. She's a sophomore in college, but that's how I got my start.
Did she go on to study STEM or robotics?
Yeah, she's a computer science major.
That's awesome. So, how many students are on the robotics team? And does that vary year to year or it kind of stays the same?
For the last 3 or 4 years, we've usually start the year with between 40 and 55 students, and then we usually see 3 or 4 or 5 that end up having to leave the team for various reasons. Sometimes actually move away in the middle of the year. Other times they have a part-time job and decide the job's more important. A few times it's for academics, but usually it's just people find other things that are taking up more time in their life. But for the most part, we usually end up with 45 to 50 the last 3 or 4 years. It's a very large team.
Yeah, that is a very large team. So, can you explain what these 40 or 50 students do on the robotics team? Like, what does a typical day look like for them?
Sure. We meet year round. Not all robotics teams do that. We have optional meetings in the summer, and we use our fall for training. So when school starts back up, we start up our meetings, and we spend the fall doing training. And then starting in January is our sort of competition season. The game is announced in January, and we start designing and building and programming our robot to compete in March, April, May. And what the students typically do on the team is there's a variety of different tasks. We obviously have the students who are building the robot, so they're doing all of the mechanical stuff, usually out of aluminum. So they're cutting and riveting frames. So we do a little bit of CNC work, and with and a little bit of laser work and some 3D printing. So all of that part of the mechanical build process goes in. There's also all the electronic components. So everything's a 12-volt system running off of a medium-sized battery, about a third the size of a car battery, and a 12-volt system. So we have students who have to know how to do all the wiring for all of the motors and the air compressor and other electronics that are on the robot. We also have pneumatics, so they have to understand how to hook up all the airflow for the pistons and things like that. So it's an amazing program from a mechanical engineering type of perspective, where these students are coming out of high school with amazing experience. On the programming side, we have to write all the code to run all these mechanisms. We also we're one of the teams that has built a reputation around autonomous programming. So sort of like self-driving cars. There's an aspect of the competition where the robot drives by itself for the first 15 seconds of every match. And so you build the robot to drive autonomously to a spot, shoot or pick up or whatever the challenge requires you to do that year. And we also do some vision detection. So we have vision assisted shooting where the robot can find the goal and aim towards the goal automatically and then fire whatever you're shooting for that year.
That's
And then
amazing. That
besides the technical skills, we also have an entire business team. So we have a public relations team that handles their social media. We have a media team that does all of the videos and photography at all of our events. We do some business plan writing. There's a lot. It's like running an entire business. If you were thinking about a high-tech business, the team basically runs like a high-tech business, and we put our students in charge of making things happen.
that's got to really set up these students for success with all of those skill sets. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing when you think about. I mean, there's obviously the technical skills of a 18-year-old student who can CAD or who can write code. Those things are sort of interesting things that happen in our program, but just the ability to think and act like a business professional. We use a project management process called Scrum, which is a very popular project management process for managing tasks through ideation to completion. And what I think is most interesting is when students talk to other business professionals and say, "Oh yeah, we use Scrum for everything." They just their eyes light up, saying, "Wow, you guys know how to use Scrum." So just the idea that these students are understanding how to work like professionals is also just a big part of what the program does.
Absolutely. So, can you you just won an award. The Nightcrawlers just won an incredible award. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's right here. I don't know if you can see it. It's a monster. It weighs 14 pounds. It's enormous, but it's a beautiful, beautiful award. Yeah, the Techni Award is they just changed their name last year. Minnesota Technology Association is their new name. Uh, the Minnesota Technology Association highlights um, advancements in technology, innovative ideas. They've been doing it for a long time now, and I've been getting their mailing list on their. I've been on their mailing list for years, and so I saw that there was a new category. And having known about the Techni Awards for a long time, I thought, this is something that we actually are doing right now. We qualify for this category of community COVID response. And so we submitted for the award. Um, the students, the students, when you ask about, what do the students think about that? The students don't really understand so much about the Techni Awards, and it's too bad it was all virtual this year because it's sort of a black tie affair. You wear your suits, you wear your fancy dresses, and it's a really awesome event to go to. And it's unfortunate it was all online because I think it really would have impressed the students a lot more to have participated in the awards ceremony. But what gets them really excited is that we won in the same category as 3M, as the University of Minnesota. We beat out 7 other companies or 6 other companies that have millions of dollars in revenue. And so that's the kids look at that and say, "Holy cow, we're at that level. We're on that playing field," and that's what gets the students really excited about this award.
So, tell me a little bit. What did the team do? What did they create to win this COVID-related award?
So our season was canceled, like so many athletic events seasons were canceled in the end of February, no, March, end of March. So the beginning of April, we were done. We had all of our competitions had been canceled. We couldn't meet anymore. And so I had contacted the principal at the middle school where I also coach, or I volunteer to coach the robotics team there. And I said, "Is there any way I could get the 7 3D printers out of the lab, bring them to my offices, and so I can print face shields? Because I have one 3D printer, but if I could get these 7 more, I could do it." And he responded and said, "Look, what about this? What if I got all the printers from all the schools in the district and I got them into one location? Would the team run a lab to make face shields?" And so I went back to the rest of the coaches and the captains, the student captains, and I said, "Hey, we've got an opportunity to do this. Do you want to?" And the first question we had is, "Well, is that even going to be allowed?" So we contacted our activities director and the principal at the high school. And in 24 hours, we had put together a health safety plan about social distancing and wearing a mask, and uh, a limited number of students, a limited number of adults, making sure that we had all the peer safety stuff put in and the health safety stuff put in. And we got approval. The school board was on board, the administration was on board. And so we set up 24 printers at Chippewa Middle School in North Oaks. That was actually one of the few schools that didn't have construction happening in the area that we needed to be in. Almost all the schools in our district are under construction. And we started running 60 hours a week. We ran 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. We ran a shift in the morning and a shift in the afternoon. And we'd have anywhere from 2 to 4 students and 1 to 2 adults. And in the month of April, we 3D printed 5,000 visors. The visors are just the plastic part that goes on the top. And then we started cutting plastic, which is the clear part that goes in the front. And we had received from 3M 2 large rolls of plastic that we used to cut for the face shield and the part, but we could only make 1,000 face shields a week through our 3D printing process. So we started putting out the word to other teams, other nonprofit organizations, or just community maker groups saying, hey, we've got enough plastic to make 11,000 face shields, but we need help if we're going to actually crank that many out. And so we started collecting donations from other people who had 3D printers and could print, but they had no way of getting the plastic, and we had the plastic. And through an association with St. Thomas Academy, they contacted us and said, hey, we've got a vendor who does injection molding. They've offered to make us some. So by the end of April, I think we had distributed 12,000 face shields in that first month. And then we did another 4,000 to 6,000 in May. And then we started getting more and more donations of this big plastic. And the students had made sort of an assembly line where they could cut and punch and corner these plastics, and they could do 1 to 2,000 face shields a day. In a day, they could cut and make that many face shields. So we started spreading the word saying, hey, we've got all this extra plastic, and it's the hardest thing for people to find. Anybody can kind of go online and buy 3D printer filament, but you can't buy the stuff that you need to make the clear face shield part. So we ended up getting enough rolls of plastic from 3M, from Stratasys. There was a maker collaborative that donated some. I think that may have come from Starkey Labs originally. We ended up making we have enough plastic to make about 26,000 clear face shield parts. And so we started shipping those all over the country. We shipped to Arizona, to Portland, someplace in West Virginia, someplace in Indiana. We would ship boxes of 500 of these face shield parts to other teams and other organizations, mostly teams. Teams would contact us and say, hey, we heard you have plastic, and we would ship these all over the country. And that helped them then make face shields that they could give to their hospitals and civil servants.
That's incredible. So tell me a little bit, like, what was the atmosphere like? These students are all lined up, they're punching things out. Do they have music going? Are they laughing, joking? Like, what was it like?
Most of them had headphones on. We do have music going in there, but we're sort of really spread out. So we're not shoulder to shoulder. So the kids really didn't have a lot of opportunity to laugh and joke around. I mean, obviously some of that happened, but we're all wearing masks, and it can be kind of loud with all the 3D printers running. So what I think is most interesting is people's like, oh, how did the kids handle that? How do they handle their season being canceled? And then this major radical shift to doing something totally different. And my response to that was, it was just kind of business as usual. We only have 6 weeks to build a robot. It's always kind of chaos, and you're always adapting, you're always changing. And our kids are so used to a structured based approach of what's the next thing that has to be done, what's the next thing that has to be done, and just figuring it out, that they just took it in stride. I mean, it was just like another day of like showing up at robotics. They just walked in, they put their head down, they got to work, and they cranked stuff out. And it was very exciting. There's a tremendous sense of pride that these students have in what we accomplished.
So did the students have any challenges they faced? Did we have broken printers at one point? Did they have, I mean, already they're pivoting extremely fast. What other additional challenges did they overcome?
The printers that we had that we were using at the school, several of them were pretty old. We had one student who every day for that first 2 or 3 weeks was replacing parts in the printers. So we would actually 3D print replacement parts to put on the printers. And that's not an uncommon thing to do with 3D printers, that you actually make your own parts to replace things that wear out in the printers. But we were replacing parts and trying to get them dialed in just right. The other thing that we did that tons of credit to our build captain, our student who was in charge of building the robot last year. He spent a ton of time tweaking the model in CAD to try to, and then what's called a slicer that determines how it prints. And we were able to take a print that was taking about an hour and 50 minutes and get it down to an hour. So we really cranked up our capacity just by playing with the settings and trying to figure out how far can we push this so that we still have the same strength in the visor that we 3D print, but can get as much speed as we possibly can. By the end of the first week, maybe a week and a half, we had things really well dialed in, and we were doing well with our production.
That's awesome. So is the team still printing? Are they still printing face shields right now?
No, we're not. So when we started at the end of April, we stopped 3D printing because we were getting these injection molded visors. And so at the time, I was asked not to expose who was donating to them, probably because they didn't want to get inundated. And I still haven't gotten permission to expose who was donating them. But anyway, so we were getting these 3D injection molded visors, and I have since built a contact with them. They are a big fan of what we're doing, and obviously since we have the plastic and we can do the full front as well, they've been very, very generous of when we need more, we've been asking them for more. But at this point, we're sort of shutting down our operations. We do have about 500 more visors that we can send out. We'd like to identify organizations that have an all-volunteer staff and can't really afford to buy PPE. So maybe someone who's doing a toy drive or Christmas meals or a clothing drive or something for the holidays. If you're part of an organization and you need face shields to help your volunteers, we have some left, and we would love to be able to donate them to organizations that can't afford to buy PPE.
So
And I think this will be the end of it. I think the end of the year will probably be the last of our production. We're sort of running out of materials, and I think that's probably the way it's going to end up.
So what's the big move for the robotics team for 2021? Do you is it still so far away, or do you have some thoughts of next
we're
year?
ready now. Our team has been meeting. It's been 100% virtual. Our students that build the robot have been focusing 100% on CAD work. So they're doing all design stuff, which allows them to do that online. Our programming team has been meeting. We've been because we can't work on the robot to program a robot to drive. Instead, we've been having the students just write code. So we're building apps, we're building games, we're building websites. We're doing anything that we can do just to keep them in the code and help them improve their skills. And then our media team is going through and they're making videos based off of footage that we shot last year. Our website and social media team is doing stuff. So we're meeting now. However, for 2021, for the competition season, we already know that we will not compete like we would compete in a normal year against 60 other teams at a big event that we would travel for. We already know that that's not going to happen. So there's a couple of different options that will be announced in January. There's going to be sort of an at-home edition where you might set up an obstacle course or something like that in your gymnasium and drive and program your robot to do certain tasks. And then you would video it and submit that. The details of what that's going to be, they won't be announced until January. They also have some design challenges that they said that they're going to announce. So there's some things that we can do and we'll do, but it's going to be a very different year this year.
Of course. So Scott, thank you so much for joining us in the incredible work that you and the Nightcrawlers are doing, and congratulations to the students. What an amazing accomplishment.
Thank you.
So to all our viewers at home, we have a big announcement for you. CTV North Suburbs will be changing its name in 2021. So to celebrate this, we have a series of programs called the 2021 Compass Programs. Check out our website, www.ctvnorthsuburbs.org, to hear more. And also check out Nightcrawlers and their website to learn more of what is coming up for this team. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
You've been listening to City Speak. If you've enjoyed the show, please like, follow, and share us on social media at CTV North Suburbs. Thanks.